Sorry guys, my connection got disconnected while I was speaking. But yeah, I was talking about the situation that we're having in South Africa with the xenophobic attacks that are happening against Nigerians. And I was saying that the problem that we have with this situation that is happening with Nigerians is a number of factors that influence it. Number one, it is caused by a people, foreigners, visitors, guests that have a general disrespect for countries that are hosting them. We're talking about people that have no manners, that don't understand that when you're a visitor in somebody's house, you must treat that house, you must treat that acceptance to be a guest with respect and treat it in a way that you would want a guest to act if they were in your house. We've got a situation where there are foreigners who are in this country. Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Zambians, Congolese, Cameroonese, you name them, that have no respect for the country that they are living in. More importantly, we've got white people, Britons, Germans, Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, you name them, who also have total disregard and disrespect for the rules and the laws of this nation. And such people are perpetrating crimes in South Africa. Such people cause problems, like the Nigerian situation that we're talking about. Yes, not all Nigerians are involved in drug dealing, but in general, Nigerians are involved in drug dealing in South Africa, which is problematic. And it is totally unacceptable for a Nigerian to leave his country because of war and disorganization that is there, to come to South Africa and start causing havoc, destroying South Africa to become what it is that he's running away from. Totally unacceptable. It is totally unacceptable for a Zimbabwean to leave Zimbabwe, where he does not ever do crime because Robert Mugabe doesn't tolerate it, and he comes here and he starts hijacking, starts robbing, and starts doing fraud. It's unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable for a Nigerian to take South African girls, give them drugs, cause them to become addicted, and then make them prostitutes to serve him and to make him money. And this is happening endemically in all cities in South Africa, and the majority of people that are controlling these activities are Nigerians. Yes, South Africans facilitate this. The South African police are involved, they are corrupt, they take the bribes from these Nigerians and allow their South African children, daughters and sisters, to be utilized and abused by these Nigerians because of the love of money. However, the foreigner can never have an excuse to bring chaos into a country in which he is a guest. Another problem is greed. The love of money in the African, the love of money among us that makes us throw away Ubuntu to the extent that you can enslave a child, a black girl, a black child like yours, and make them a prostitute is indicative of the manner in which we have lost our Ubuntu in Africa. And these are some of the problems that are causing some of these foreigners to come and disrespect, desecrate the country in which they've been given residency. However, having said that, the rules and the laws that apply in South Africa can sometimes cause and result in people doing criminal activity. We cannot have a situation in which the South African government is kind enough to let people come into the country, but make it very difficult, particularly for Africans. Africans who don't have the same capital as Westerners, Africans that don't have the same amount of money as Europeans. They make it difficult for those people to survive in South Africa and provide for their families. For instance, you look at the situation with Nigerians. Most Nigerians do not get work permits in South Africa unless they've been to the best universities in Nigeria or unless they've been to universities overseas and they've got great qualifications. The majority of the Nigerian doesn't get an opportunity to work in South Africa. The qualifications of Nigerians are not recognized in general in South Africa. Therefore, it becomes very difficult for a Nigerian man to get a job in South Africa. But the sad part is a lot of these Nigerian men have got children in this country with South African women. A lot of them are married to South African women in this country. Now, when you deny a man who's got a child and a wife an opportunity to make money, an opportunity for fair employment, an opportunity to start a business. If you illegalize his papers, if you make his papers illegal, how does that man survive within the law? What man accepts to be given a handout, either as a refugee or whatever status, to look after his wife and children? This is one of the biggest problems that we have in South Africa as foreigners. However, the white foreigner comes in here with resources, the bulk of which are raped and pillaged from Africa anyway, and they find it very easy to participate in business activities and take up niches that we as black people cannot take up. And the South African government gives them free rein. But as much as we talk about prostitution, as much as we talk about these small crimes of drugs, these white foreigners pillage this economy. They take the resources out of the country. They kill the competition and small businesses in South Africa. We're even seeing multinationals and international businesses and finance organizations going into the location, putting up malls that are taking business away from the townships, killing the small black business. And then those proceeds that these white people make leave the country. When these white people have made enough money, they put their money in offshore investments. Our own South African white radio stations put up advertisements that talk about how if a South African can find $500,000, they will be given residency in Australia and residency in the United States. If a South African takes $500,000 from the South African economy to go and become a resident in the United States, whose money is that? Who is worse, the drug dealer or these people that continue to pillage our resources, pillage our labor, and then take the money out of the continent when it suits them? South Africa has got 5 million white people, a lot of whom are considered, sorry about that, a lot of whom are considered as legal, South Africans. But those white people, whenever they need to retire, whenever they've made a lot of money, Mark Shuttleworth is a perfect example. They take their bags, they leave. Most of the South African companies that became billion-dollar empires have left the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, or at least their primary listing, and they're now listed in England. These are the people that are given precedence by this a black government that gives white people a better opportunity to prosper in South Africa more than they do black people. But these people, when it suits them, once they are happy, once they've made enough money, they leave. What then do you expect the Nigerian to do? If you take away an opportunity for the Nigerian to feed his children, what do you expect that Nigerian to do? When you close off opportunities for the Nigerian to get a job, when you don't allow the Nigerian to work in South Africa or to start a legitimate business, but you give him residency, you give him a refugee status, what do you expect him to do to feed the South African children that he has got? What do you expect him to do to look after his South African wife? How do you expect him to prosper? But yet the same parameters are not given to the white man who keeps taking from South Africa and taking it back to his country. We need the South African government to pay attention to that, because that is what causes illicit and illegal activities that start to be undertaken. And the basic levels of criminal activity that most people will start off with is drug dealing, prostitution. These are crimes of poverty. Yes, they can be done by people who are greedy. They can be done by people with the love of money. But the moment we don't give people an opportunity to prosper economically in the country, we are enabling an environment that makes people criminals. So we need the South African government to take care of this, because even people like me, I'm a legitimate businessman. I am naturalized in South Africa. I've been living here for the past 17 years, and I am a permanent resident, but even I, in my business, find it difficult to conduct business because there's a lot of business I can't get because of my Zimbabweanness. We are competing with multinational corporations that have been given the ability to do business in South Africa, and they're not even forced to empower black South Africans. The multinational corporations in this country, some of them don't even have bank accounts in South Africa. They just simply make a profit, particularly from government contracts, and they take them offshore. However, me, a black Zimbabwean, when I want to do business for government, I will never get given that business. But Microsoft will get the business with ease, even though they don't have any black shareholders. As a Zimbabwean, I will not get certain contracts, even in the private sector, because I am not recognized as a value addition because of my foreignness. These are the things that push certain other people to become criminals. And more sad is the fact that these criminals thrive in South Africa because the South African police officers, South Africans, are taking bribes for their own children, own sisters, own girl children to be enslaved by drug dealers. They take bribes at the cost of selling their children to these killers who bring drugs and chaos into this country. It is the very same men at the borders who are taking the bribes for criminals to come in here with these drugs. It is these very same police officers that use their police cars to carry and courier some of these drugs. These are South Africans destroying South Africa through a person that doesn't have a vested interest in the country. So these regulations have got to change. And South Africa has got to realize that this is not a Nigerian problem alone. The factors that are causing this problem are deeper than just a Nigerian. And then you, Nigerians, you Zimbabweans, you Congolese, you people that come in as foreigners and undertake criminal activities, you are a problem unto us, for you're destroying our reputations. But if you are a foreigner and you know these criminals, and you don't say anything, you do not take them to task, you do not report them, you make us complicit to this problem. If we say South Africa is where we live and we care about the country, we must report any of our friends, brothers and sisters that undertake criminal activities. We must report the police officers that are taking bribes from these people. Because we cannot damage an Africa that we're trying to build together. And as for this giving precedence to white people, when we've had people like Radef and Krecher, criminals, we've got what we call the Israeli mafia operating in South Africa with impunity, it is bad for us to then target just black foreigners. I hope this is something we can sort out together. And you, Nigerians, when you see a community starting to uprise against your people, while you sit passively protecting those people, you become responsible for any illegal activity that is undertaken against you.